These property tax revenue. The proposed increase is $50,000, which is 4.43% above the 2016 general fund for Park and Rec. The tax on a $268,000 residence would be increased from $39.21 to $49.05, which is $1.74 per year. On a business of that size, it would increase $3.16. So, Councilman, Ron, go ahead.
Yeah, no. Okay, so
Election 11.
yeah, Wasatch County Parks and Recreation is asking the taxpayers through Truth in Taxation to hold the 2016 tax rate of .000278 for 2017. With this increase, we will hire 2 additional ground maintenance employees for the event center complex. Since we have opened the complex and the rec center, the department has not had a full-time maintenance person at these facilities. We've been using ground staff, program staff, and administration staff to maintain these buildings. That was perfectly okay when they were brand new. Now they are both in need of full-time maintenance. We feel that we have saved the taxpayers a significant amount of money by using existing staff to fulfill these maintenance duties. The department has grown with the number of people we provide services to and is now in need of full-time maintenance staff at these facilities. So what I'm proposing with this tax increase, or holding the tax rate for 2017, is that we move 2 existing employees from the event center to these positions. The reason I like to do that is they know the buildings already, they already know the ins and outs of them, and replace them with 2 new hires. These 2 new hires will mainly be setting up and tearing down events along with routine maintenance of the facility, like cleaning and getting ready for the next events. They will also assist in general maintenance of the facility, time permitting. Just a couple quick facts I want to make sure that the public knows. Wasatch County Parks and Recreation Special Service District number 21 was voted on by the public in 1997 to create the district. The maximum amount that was allowable at the time, which still is through public hearings obviously, is .0004. Currently we are at 0.000287, which is just a little bit over half of the amount that was approved. I do have some examples of what it's going to cost people. Now, so if you look at what the statement says on the agenda, that amount is actually market value. What you're seeing here is taxable value on this. The taxable value on it, I'm going to use myself as an example. My taxable value is $145,595. It's going to cost me $1.75 by holding the tax rate. One thing that I want to make sure the public understands also is that in May of 2016, the bond for Southfield Park expired. When I paid my personal taxes on the park bond, it was $4.42. So actually, with the Parks and Recreation Department, the taxpayer, me personally, I'm getting a $2.67 net gain on my taxes this year, even with this increase.
Expired. By expired, it means
yes.
It's paid off.
Yes, it has expired. 1997, there were 2 questions on the ballot. One was, do we want to build Southfield Park, issue general obligation bonds, and create the district? Obviously, both of those passed, and the bond did expire this year, so it is no longer on the tax roll. Okay. Questions?
Tom, there's been some comments on social media and so forth that the public was presented a bond several years ago to build a pool facility.
Correct.
And that bond failed. And the perception is that even though the public voted to not do the pool, we've gone ahead, the county's gone ahead and done what they assumed was in that bond.
Sure.
Would you speak to that? Maybe, where's Mr. Davis? You both.
Actually,
so
where it's a county-owned facility, I probably can't speak to that. What I can speak to is when the question come up to the district, if we build this facility, can you operate and maintain it? Do you have the money in your budget to operate and maintain that? And obviously my answer was yes. Last year, in the 2016 budget, at this time last year, we proposed a new hire for the assistant grounds maintenance. And then we also had some money through fees and other means to operate and maintain that, which we did in 2016. This tax increase that we're talking about here today has absolutely nothing to do with the new facilities. But how the place got built, that's something Mike's going to have to talk to.
That's good. And I visited with Mike on this, so yes, sir. Why he's putting that up?
Just a quick question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I work for another major municipal. I've worked in the federal sector, all this kind of stuff. My question is, instead of levying a tax increase, you mentioned fee revenues. Why don't you raise your fees in order to cover this, and therefore the people that use the facility maintain the weight of maintaining it?
Good question. If you look at the numbers here, with this tax, by holding the tax rate, we're creating about $50,000, about a 4.4% increase. Obviously, you can't hire 2 full-time employees for $50,000.
No, and I accept that, yes.
So earlier this year, we went through the public hearing process, and we did raise the fees at the rec center. Fees at the rec center. We are constantly looking at program fees to make sure that programs are paying for themselves, plus maybe even a little bit more to help with administrative staff and everything. So we are constantly looking at raising fees, which we just did on the rec center, pretty substantially in my opinion, for the rec center use. Also, there's some other income that we have coming in that I guess it's not going out. Well, we're a special service district. We've been in the county pool with USIP, our insurance agency. Now we're a standalone. We're on our own, doing our own policy, which has actually created a savings for us this year. So, yes, we have raised fees on people playing and using the facilities. If you look at the budget, when we get to it, $2.9 million budget, over half of that is generated in fees. So we do look at fees, I don't want to say on a daily basis, but on a quarterly basis, I am in contact with my program director, my facilities directors, to make sure that our fees are in line and that we are getting the maximum out of them.
My main question, though, in this particular respect is, if a specific function is increasing your need for money that much, it seems that facility needs to be looked at seriously for increasing fees. Therefore, you don't pass it to the taxpayer. Per se, you pass it to the users. It's just a question. I'm not criticizing.
No. So I guess you look. There's a couple things I look at with that, and I don't know if I have the answers to them.
Well,
you look at the rec center. The rec center charges a fee to use it, and the rec center, I feel we do pretty good in charging the fees that we need to operate and maintain that facility. You look at Southfield Park, which is a public park available to everybody. The money that goes to that public park that we don't collect fees on is paid with taxes. So it doesn't bring in any revenue to support those. These positions I'm asking for today, facility maintenance is not just the event center, rec center, it's the facilities we have in the department. So these people will be providing maintenance at all the facilities we have in the county. So to raise the fees on one section of the public to pay for another section that we don't have any income in, I don't know how we could do that. But we have raised fees at the rec center. We have raised fees on programs. Again, we're asking for $50,000 in tax revenue this year to hire 2 positions, which obviously is going to be a little bit more than $50,000.
but you said those 2 positions were for this facility.
They are.
And so, I don't mean to be argumentative.
No, sure.
I'm just saying, I think you can make a lot more than $50,000 by looking at the fee structure.
Which we have.
Let me add another element to that. These increased activities that come in this increased facility, bring how much more increased tax revenue into the city and the county as people come and they stay the night, they spend money in our restaurants and our stores, our service stations. So there is an offset there that, you know, who can tax for that or whatever. So that in itself helps pay some of these increased costs too.
And I think it was stated earlier, the Parks and Rec department has grown quite rapidly over the past few years because of growth. People are coming here with families, and those families are asking us to provide activities for these kids to do. Unless we hold the tax rate, we don't get any of that income. And like I said earlier in the statement, I feel that my staff has gone over and above doing jobs that they weren't hired for to make sure that we get the job done and provide the service to the community.
Mike,
Talk about there.
Mike, go ahead on that.
In about 2001, and Mike, you might remember better, you were on the commission at the time, it was the county commission. There was a bond issued for the event center and the fire station up in Jordanelle. And that generated $1 million for the event center. I came to work as the county manager in 2003, and we hadn't been able to do anything with that $1 million because it wasn't enough to so we were able to additionally bond and get outside money to build the event center, which we did. Just a few years later, and I can't remember what year it was, when we built the event center, we still have the fairgrounds where the ball diamonds are right now. The grandstand was condemned, had dry rot and so forth. It was a wooden structure. And so we had to tear it down. And rather than rebuild that, it was determined at the time to move the fairgrounds over next to the event center. We did another bond at that time and built the grandstand on the north side.
Like revenue bonds.
They're revenue bonds, yeah.
Revenue bonds.
Yeah. They were general obligation bonds, so they're revenue bonds, so they're based on sales tax revenue and other revenues the county makes. And we built that facility over there at that time, which was about 2006 or 7. The then Public Works Director, Kent Berg, and myself got together and tried to determine what we would do with the old fairgrounds. The old fairgrounds were purchased off of a federal grant. Most of the property was issued on a federal grant, which required the property to remain in the same type of use as it was purchased for. They gave us some money, we had to match some money to acquire the property. We looked at several things, and several things were brought to the council to look at. There was a proposal to put a museum down there to supplement the train. There was a couple of different proposals to sell property. There was a proposal to develop it into houses, which we couldn't do because it would take the property into a different use. So Mr. Berg and myself determined that we probably ought to do something into like a park or something. So we proceeded to tear the old stuff out. The racetrack, there was quite a bit of work in getting the concrete structures, the pipe structures out, the fencing structures, the unused water lines. We had 2 restrooms that were essentially condemned. We had the lion shelter that was condemned. And so we had a lot of work to clean the site up. At that time, we determined if we used our own people for the labor costs, for $1 million or so, we could probably develop a new park. This was all done 10 years ago. This wasn't something we started this year. We started this 10 years ago. And so when the Park and Rec Department came and proposed a bond last year, we just sat on the sideline, waited to see what the voters of the bond wanted to do. It didn't change our plans. The county owns the property. Park and Rec didn't own the property. The county owned the property. Like I said, I've been planning for almost 10 years on what to do with that property. When the bond failed, We simply went back and refined our plans. I talked to the council. We hired an engineer who came in and presented a plan to the council of what we would do. I then came back to the council with bids on what we proposed. We thought in the neighborhood of $1.5 million we could build the facility, and that was using county labor. I then came back last year and said we didn't make it for $1.5 million and we needed some more money, and the council granted more money. The big items on there, we've spent somewhere around $2 million. The big items were the fencing, the lighting, replacing a major irrigation line, replacing a major power line, the concrete work, the sprinklers, the sod,
Fire protection.
and the fire protection. Those were the main items. None of the labor was in that cost. That was labor that we're already paying for. So the only costs incurred on the labor were for the diesel fuel for the equipment that we had, for the graders, dozers, and so forth. And so the county proceeded and finished the part. It's basically done. We're not quite done. We acquired, how many yards of regrind did we acquire, Brandon?
There was probably in the neighborhood of 2,300 yards of regrind.
We acquired at no cost.
At no cost.
With
more to
we
come.
did the parking lot with.
What's regrind?
We took asphalt regrind. We took jersey barriers that the state gave us off of the Highway 32 project north of town heading towards Camas. We were able to get those for free, and we used those to help for some of the containment around the parking lots. We had to go outright bid the fencing and sprinklers and sod and electrical work. So that $2 million is for all of that work. We're planning on having a full accounting of all that. Probably in about a month. We're putting all the costs together. We're just finishing up right now. We have a few plumbing items done, but we'll be basically done. We did plan it to put some pavilions down there for family use. We utilitied them in, run the sidewalks and so forth, but we didn't put any money in for them, so we'll have to budget for those at some future date. But essentially, that's a project that's taken us about 10 years to complete. And I know there was a bond in the middle of that, but that didn't change what we had started, and it really didn't change what we ended up with. So.
To put that $2 million in perspective, Southfield Park was built in '98 for $2.25 million.
Those are the 4 ball fields we have there. Mike, what was the revenue source for the $2 million?
For the $2 million, about 30 to 40% of that comes off the transit room tax, which is a tax we collect from hotels. If you go stay in a hotel, you pay an additional 4% or so anywhere you go and stay, and that tax is collected for purposes of recreation and tourism advancement. And so most of that money comes from that. There is some money from impact fees that we collect as people build their houses. We do have an impact fee that goes for Park and Rec. And so we use some of that money as well. And then we did have a component of that that was general fund, reserve fund. We had some reserve fund we maintained in there, and we did use some of that on this last go around when we needed the extra money. So most of it was transit room tax and impact fee.
Both of them are restricted funds.
They're both restricted funds. They have to be used, particularly the impact fee money that can only be used for recreation. And right now, that, and we bought some property. The property where the event center is being paid for off of those funds. We bought property across Southfield Roads for recreation. That's being paid for that. So, yeah, they are restricted. The transit room is restricted as well, differently, but we were able to use some of them.
Thanks, Mike. Any other questions or comments from the council? Not, we'll open this up for public hearing on item number 2. Any member of the public would like to respond? Questions or